Hello everyone, this is King of Reddit here, and today we're going to be looking at some r/entitled parents. This video is kind of a bit more on the sad side, but I personally love it, and I can relate to this more than most other Reddit stories I've seen. So I personally like it. Tell me if you like this kind of video, or this kind of story, and without further ado, let's get on to it. So it's re-uploaded because the first one got taken down to the poster's Reddit account being pretty new. And it takes a while to get to the entitled parent in the story, but the backstory is very important as you're about to see. So let's get into this. I met my best friend, we'll call her Janice, on the second day of band class in middle school. We were assigned rotating seats for the first week to allow us to get to know all the students in the class, and Janice and I were assigned the first two seats in the back row. This allowed us to get away with more tomfoolery than would normally be allowed. We immediately hit it off, and our friendship was only strengthened by our mutual love for playing the trumpet. Let me preface this by saying that Janice was just an incredible person. She was one of those people that even though she had a rough childhood and she was often living day to day not knowing where her next meal was coming from, she never batted an eye and still put other people before herself every day of her life. I put the pieces together one day when she came into class in dirty clothes, and you could tell she hadn't bathed in a while. I told my mother about it, and she decided to open our home to her whenever she wanted to come by. Even though we had no problem with her staying, she rarely ate meals with us because she felt shameful for having to rely on our family for those things. After a while, her mother was arrested for a reason that I still don't know, and she was placed in a foster care program. I tried to convince my mom to adopt her into the family, but a recent divorce and the economy being bad, we just couldn't support another person. Eventually, a suitable foster parent was found for her, and everything seemed to be looking up. Oh, and I forget to mention that her foster family was completely loaded, and I mean loaded. You'd never know by the way they acted or lived, but the foster mother developed a software company and sold it to a larger company for a ridiculous amount of money. That out of the way, it was now the end of 7th grade year, and we were having our first major tryout to receive our placement in the advanced 8th grade band. We both realized our passion for playing the instrument and music that spring, and we practiced for hours on end, nearly every day together, and both achieved the top scorers in the section, earning her the first chair position and me the second chair. We were enthralled and invigorated even more with this passion for music. We continued our rigorous practice routine throughout the summer, and Janice's foster parents paid for the two of us to have private lessons from the trumpet professor at the university in the nearby city. With this training, we auditioned for the middle school version of All East, and once again, both of us got the first two chairs. At this point, both of our families began to invest in us by helping us purchase professional instruments for ourselves. My mother and I split the cost of a professional line horn. By this point, I had saved up about $1,000 from the previous birthdays and holidays, and the other $1,500 were split between my mother and my grandparents as a gift. Janice did the same but had saved up $1,500 over the past several years that she had been planning on using for colleges, but I convinced her that investing in herself could ultimately end up paying more and to end in scholarships. She eventually got on board and talked with her parents about the trumpet that she wanted to buy within her price range. They reached out to me and told me that they wanted to surprise her with a much better trumpet than she could possibly expect. I let them know where to look, and with some clever work from my side and theirs, we gathered all the information that we needed, and they put in the order. A few months later, I got a phone call from her. At first I was scared because she was sobbing directly into the phone and I couldn't understand her. Eventually she calmed down enough to tell me that her new trumpet had come in, but it wasn't the one she was expecting and I needed to come over there. Right now. I thought I knew what I was going to see when I walked in, but to my utter surprise, it was nothing like I expected. When I gave her parents the details and specs of her ideal trumpet, I figured that they were going to find one that was very similar in spec and get it for her. But they actually got her a completely custom trumpet. to the exact specifications that she had wanted and had it plated in a beautiful brushed silver finish, with lapis inlaid in the valve finger buttons. It was beyond gorgeous and played like a dream. Okay, so here's where all hell breaks loose and one of the most unfortunate series of events possible unfolds. So a few years down the road, and we were both auditioning for the high school version of All East for our state as freshmen. If we placed into the top section in the top band, we got an invite to the audition for All State, which is a huge honor to be part of. I remember standing outside the door waiting for Janice to get out of our audition when I was approached by another trumpet player standing in line, followed closely by EP, entitled parents. "Your friend is a very beautiful trumpet," said the kid. "Do you think she would let me play a few notes on it when she is finished?" I already knew the answer she got, as she frequently got asked this at these type of events. "I'm sorry, but she doesn't let other people play with it because it was a gift to her, and she doesn't want to risk it getting damaged." I saw the dismay in his eyes and the disbelief in his parents, so I quickly remedied the situation. "She would definitely let you have a good look at it, though. We love talking to other people who are interested in different types of trumpets." This seemed to diffuse the situation, and we met with him afterwards and had quite the pleasant experience because he was very knowledgeable on the subject, and so were we. We got the results for the auditions a few days later, and I was incredibly surprised as I got second chair and Janice got fourth. This was incredibly unusual, as she was clearly the better player of the two of us, but I thought nothing of it. We both qualified for All-State auditions, and that's all that mattered. A week passes, and we are on our way to the All-State auditions. My parents drove separately, and I rode with Janice. She went into kindergarten a year late and had a late birthday, thus had her license as a freshman. We arrive and meet the same kid and EPs in the parking lot. We have a slightly more awkward encounter, but again, I think nothing of it and just blame it on the nerves. We go into the audition and both do wonderful. That night, we get the call and they told us that she got first chair and I got third. This was an incredible moment, and that night we stayed up on the phone planning our future as performing artists that would travel the globe and wow people with all our wonderful trumpet playing. The next morning, we hurried over to the practice hall to get an early warm-up. The rehearsal went astoundingly well, and Janice had one of the most beautiful solos I had ever heard in a ballad-type piece we've ever played. The next morning, during practice, we had a lunch break, and while Janice was getting out of her seat, she tripped on a bottle of valve oil and landed trumpet first into the ground. I immediately rushed over to make sure she was okay. She had hit her head on the side of the stand and put a serious dent in the bell of her trumpet. She began to fall apart because she felt she had let her foster parents down by damaging the gift they had given her. She sprung up after a few seconds, and the shock began to settle. She asked if I could hold on to the trumpet while she went to the bathroom to clean out the cuss she got from the stand. A few hours passed, and I hadn't heard anything from her. I continued to call her number, but got nothing. I began to worry when I got a phone call from my parents. I could hear sirens in the background, and my mother was crying. She told me to meet them out front, and that they would pick me up and take me back to the hotel. I felt sick in my stomach and had an overwhelming feeling of dread. I continued to look for Janice while waiting on my parents. I wanted to let her know what was going on and talk to her about what had happened, as she was clearly upset. As my parents pulled into the parking lot, I got into the car and they drove to a spot near the back and turned the car off. I asked what was going on, and my mom explained to me that Janice was driving back from a hotel and ran a red light. She was T-boned in a truck and was killed in the crash. I had no words. I still have no words. I just sat there, clutching the scratched and dented trumpet in my arms, with tears rolling down my face. It hadn't set in yet. I couldn't believe it. I remember it vividly, as it seemed that subconsciously I was processing the news, but emotionally I wasn't allowing myself to. My tears were not accompanied by anything, no emotion, just a feeling of void. I even lashed out at my parents, accusing them of a cruel joke. But it was true. My best friend, whom I considered my sister, was gone just like that. No goodbye. Nothing. That was it. 2 weeks came and went, and the postponed All-State concert was approaching. We had a ceremony at the first practice for her, but by this point I had attempted to numb myself to avoid dealing with the loss, so I didn't participate. I brought her trumpet with me to practice one day because for some reason it brought me comfort to have it near. It was set up on a stand next to me when I was once again approached by EP. She asked me what happened to the trumpet, to which I replied, she tripped while she was carrying it and dinged it up real bad. She then asked me politely if her son could play with it now that it was damaged. No, she trusted me with it, and I have to keep it safe, I replied. Oh, come on, she fired back. Just for one song? I'm sorry, but I can't do that, I said, slightly agitated at this point. Are you serious? All my son wants to do is play your stupid friend's beat-up trumpet, and you won't even let him touch it. He got to hold it before. Why can't he play it now? I was taken aback by this whole scenario and just stood there with my mouth agape, but she continued. Can you believe this? Addressing the few kids left in the room. This boy thinks that he's so much better than my son that he won't even let him use his dead girlfriend's trumpet. At this point, I'm fuming. I start to retort, but I don't get far before I get too choked up to keep talking. Why on earth do you need to keep it safe anyways? It's not like she's gonna need it anytime soon. The least you can do is make my son happy by giving him her trumpet. He can play it better than she could anyway. My emotional barriers that I had put up to control my feelings at the time were completely overwhelmed, and I began to sob. She reached over me and attempted to grab the trumpet when the director walked back in the room and saw what was going on. He hurried over to where we were, but EP scurried out of the building before he could get her. He immediately called the police. By this point, the emotional dam I built was busted, and all I could do to comfort me was keep her trumpet in my lap as I wailed and sobbed. I had a full breakdown and didn't stop for nearly an hour after my parents came and got me. The concert was canceled, and EP and Child were never allowed to participate in all-state performances ever again, and I received no confirmation of this, but I've been told that he was kicked out of his high school band program. We were encouraged to press charges against her, but I refused because I didn't want any more emotional weight at the time and figured that it was some sort of moral high road. Looking back, I almost wish I had pressed charges. Anyone who would have the audacity to do something like that, to a child, mind you, needed some serious help, and I think that would have been a good wake-up call. To end on a more positive note, I've continued to pursue our passion and perform music all across the country, and since that day I have performed every gig, concert, and everything else on a trumpet exactly how she left it. It still gives me comfort to have it near. It's as if it's a bit of her still with me when I have it. I hope you enjoyed this marvelous story from my childhood. I apologize for the length, but I felt that in the full context, the story was needed. I said that wrong, but you get the point. And I feel that it is important to address that this happened a long time ago, and my memory may have lost a little on the details, but I tried to keep it to what was most solid in my memory. I appreciate the read and hope everyone of you is doing well. Okay, this is one of the best stories I've ever found on Reddit. I can relate to this as I made All-State at one point. I can still audition 3 more times before I graduate. But yeah, I can relate with the All-State. I can relate with having really close friends. I cannot relate to having a friend die. Now that's a pretty extreme situation. And from the sounds of it, she was an incredible person, so that just makes this even more disappointing. But yeah, that trumpet, it keeps her happy, I guess, so it's good. But that entitled parent, I kind of wish she pressed charges. The other video that I did the other day, I feel like the charges were a bit much on that dog sitter. But in this, she should have pressed charges. That parent had she had no right in order to tell her that she should let her son have the dead friend's trumpet. That was not her call. That was not his call. I'm even going to go as far as to say that wasn't the person, the friend, the speaker in the story. I would say that it wasn't even her call what happened to the trumpet. It was Janice's. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe. If you have any entitled parent stories, you can go ahead and comment in the description or post on Reddit. I might see on Reddit. I'll definitely see it in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all that nice stuff. And goodbye. Have a good day. This is the King of Reddit signing off.